So for today, we are coming to the last section of our course. So we have 7 more days of our listening to the teachings of Luang Por, and from today on up to the 16th and 17th. 16th and 17th would be the days where we would have our final sessions of teaching, and the 17th we would have a test. So no, actually 17th we will break to get ready for our test. On the 18th and 19th, there would be the day where we would share our experiences and our feelings throughout these 49 days practicing together. And on the end of the 19th, we would have a short test at the end of our course. And on the 20th, we would go to another place to pay our respect to our teachers together, as if Luang Por is still here with us. So that's our brief schedule. And someone asked about the test that is going to happen on the end of our course, which would be on the 19th. That would the test at the end be very difficult, and who is organizing the test, and how would the questions come about? So Ajahn Phairot's answer is there is no team organizing the questions for our final test or exam. Ajahn Phairot is actually the only one preparing the questions. And you might hear that Luang Por Viriyang said in his talk that Luang Por would usually make the test very easy for people to be able to pass. But that is actually not Ajahn Phairot's style. He really wants to make sure that the people who go through this course and then would later become teachers, carry on Luang Por Viriyang's teaching, they need to get the teachings correct. So if the question is too easy and does not make sure that you understand the teachings well enough, then there's no point of taking the test. So his kind of test would want to make sure that you understand the teachings correctly. Ajahn Phairot shared that actually Luang Por Viriyang fear has 2 concerns about for his students. The first concern is that Luang Por Viriyang does not want his students to be tricked by or be fooled by other teachers' teachings and mixing a misunderstanding that what is not vipassana to be vipassana, and what is not true realization and to be thought of as true realization. So in order for us to not fall into misunderstandings like this, Luang Por Viriyang taught us everything that he knew and gave us every answer to every types of question that we need to understand in order for us to not be astray and be led to the wrong path. So this is why the test at the end would really make sure that we understand his teachings correctly. And the second thing that Luang Por Viriyang would not want us to encounter is to fail the test. So no matter how much we have learned, eventually he would want us to be able to clarify our misunderstandings and then eventually pass the test. Ajahn Phairot want to emphasize that although we're going to have a test at the end of the course, the whole idea of this course is not about passing the test, but actually the practice throughout the 49 days where we accumulate more energy for the mind. That is the most important thing of why we are here together for the past 49 days. So there will be the test, but the test is not the ultimate goal. Accumulating the energy for the mind is actually the most important thing for us being here together in the 49 days. The next question is concerning when we practice cultivating the different jhanas from the first to the 4th jhana, how much important are keeping the precepts, and how much importance is given to the different types of precepts that we keep, whether it's the 5 precept, 8 precept, 10, 227 or any other types of precept. How much importance are the sila concerning our development of the jhanas? So Ajahn Phairot's answer is that the foundation of keeping sila is the foundation to develop samadhi. Foundation of samadhi is the cause for developing wisdom, and developing wisdom is the cause for liberation. So all of these actually work to develop and to support one another. But in order for us to keep our sila, whether it's the 5 precepts, 5 sila, 8, 10 or 227, all of these eventually lead back to having some kind of sila within us. So sila means the neutrality of the mind. So with whatever types of sila that we keep that makes the mind neutral, that is actually a good foundation for us to practice. But what is important is not only the sila, but actually the way that we engage with the practice that is actually very important. For us as monks, it's a lot easier for us to have our time and engage with the practice without having too much concern about worldly affairs. So that is the foundation of how good practices would come about. But for lay people, actually it's quite difficult for them to be able to leave their home and let go of their concern and have this kind of 49 days continuous opportunity to do this practice. So actually what is important to develop our concentration is not only the type of sila, but actually the openness for the opportunity for us to practice continuously. That is what is very important. Ajahn Pairot shared that, for example, if you are a monk, it's very different when you are just a normal monk without any duty, comparing to, for example, like he himself, where he is the abbot. Once you become an abbot, then there's so many concerns that it's actually very, very difficult for you to practice continuously. And also coming into a course, continuous course like this, if one of you would have appointed a duty as like the head of this group of monks, or having any other duties that you have to take care of while you're here, then that would interfere with your own personal practice. So this is the reason why Ajahn Pairot said he does not want any one of us coming for this course to have any duty that you have to be concerned about. All the duties that is needed for the course would be taken care of by Ajahn Pairot and his staff at the monastery. So that is the reason why you don't need to worry about anything and just focus solely directly on the practice, and that would lead to a good result eventually. Another question is concerning what type of samadhi or jhana would be needed for us to be benefit to the world. Ajahn Pairot shared that actually just getting into the first jhana would be the foundation for you to have a neutral state of mind, and that would be very beneficial for your own personal practice. But if you want to be benefit for others, then actually starting from the second jhana would be very fruitful or very beneficial for others when you engage with them. And in the second jhana, Luang Por would talk about the quality of the mind that is kind of have this internal smile that appear within the mental states of the mind. And this is coming from the internal state of peacefulness that comes from the second jhana onwards. So even just having the first jhana is very beneficial, but to really be beneficial for others, starting from the second jhana, that is where true benefit from your own practice will start to help support others. And that is the time when you start to have this internal gladness or internal smile that happens from internal inside the mind, and that is would start to be benefit for others. ครับผม
ขอบคุณครับผมเยอะไปไหมครับขอบคุณครับ
เกรงจะแปลไม่ครบนะ So this is quite a complex questions for both of these questions. So the first question is concerning the two different types of jhana. So there are two different types of jhana, which is called Lakkhanupanissa jhana and Aramanupanissa jhana. And are they both vipassana jhana? So when you talk about jhanas, actually there's many different categories where we can talk about jhanas. Sometimes Luang Por talk about jhanas in terms of 3 types of jhana. Sometimes we talk about jhanas in terms of 4 or sometimes 2. But in this case, when we talk about the jhanas, Prajan emphasized that the meaning of jhana, the meaning of samadhi, and the meaning of jhana. So whenever the mind is focusing on something or trying to stare at the object or focusing on the object, that is what the result is, all called jhanas. But when the mind is being aware of the object or aware of the phenomena, this is what we call jhana, with a Y, not a J, a wisdom. And when the mind is in a state of stability or balance, that is what we call samadhi. So these 3 words have different qualities leading to its result. And this is one type of how we can define jhana. Another type of how we can define jhana is actually when they call it khanika samadhi, upachara samadhi, and appana samadhi. This is the three different types of how we define the state of stability of the mind due to how stable the mind is. So, for example, when you are saying that the mind has samadhi, when the mind has samadhi, which means balance or stability, but then the mind keeps moving around, but then have certain momentary stability, momentary balance, that is what we call khanika samadhi or momentary samadhi. But when the mind is able to be balanced for a longer period of time, and be able to focus on certain object for a longer period of time, then we call that state upachara samadhi or access concentration, access samadhi. And when the mind is able to stay in a deeper state of balance, a deeper state of samadhi, then we call that state appana samadhi or full immersive concentration. So in this case, the question is asking about the difference between Lakkhanupanissa jhana and Aramanupanissa jhana and how that relates to vipassana jhana. So for the first one, when we say Aramanupanissa jhana, arama means the object. So it means that the Aramanupanissa jhana means the quality of focusing the mind on a specific object. If that is accomplished, then you get into the jhana of focusing on the object, or this is called Aramanupanissa jhana. And this is a type where the mind has focus on the object and then jhana is the result. But this is what we call a lokiya jhana or the worldly jhanas, not leading to liberation. The second type of jhana is what we call Lakkhanupanissa jhana, which is the jhana that the focus is not focusing on the object, but focusing on the quality of that object or the quality of that emotion. So what type of quality are we focusing on? The quality that we focus on is the trilakshana or the 3 characteristics of the object, and that is the object of our concentration. And these 3 qualities is actually that the object has the quality of dukkha, anicca, anatta. So whenever you focus your attention on the quality of the object relating to the trilakshana or the 3 characteristics, the result is you gain Lakkhanupanissa jhana or the jhana understanding the quality. And this type of jhana, Lakhanupanissa jhana, is the type of jhana that leads to vipassana jhana. And this leads to liberation or going beyond the worldly states. So to answer the question whether both type of jhana leads to vipassana jhana or not, the answer is Aramanupanissa jhana, focusing on the object, does not lead to vipassana. But Lakhanupanissa jhana, which is the focusing on the quality of the object, of the Trilakshana, this can lead to vipassana jhana. But not all understanding of the three characteristics leads to vipassana jhana. It needs to be accumulated up to a certain quality. It has to have this firm and deep concentration, firm and deep balance of the mind to be able to get into the state of vipassana jhana. Because we can understand that everything is impermanent, suffering and non-self from our intellectual understanding. But by understanding this, we cannot say that we have gained liberation or gained any deeper states of understanding. But only having this understanding in a deeper state of mind, with a deeper concentration, only in that state, then the mind has this deeper transformation within itself and leading to what we call the state of the result of having achieved vipassana jhana. So it has both the quality of what we observe is different, and the depth of understanding or depth of the stability of the mind is different. That would eventually lead to what we call vipassana jhana, and that is what we are aiming for. The second question is concerning bhavanka chit, bhavanka, the state of bhavanka and the state of the mind in bhavanka, whether these are the same or different. So when we talk about the state of bhavanka, actually we are getting in touch with the state of bhavanka quite often. When we do our meditation and we get into this trance or this sleepy state or this sleepiness or drowsiness or getting lost internally to some place where we don't know, and then suddenly we wake up. That is actually how we starting to get in touch with the state of bhavanka. And actually the state of bhavanka is always there with us. But it doesn't mean that every time we are awake after we get in touch with that state, it means that we are awake in the bhavanka state. Prajan talked about some people report to him that I've been awakened in the bhavanka state because I've been sleepy for a while and then suddenly I'm more awake afterwards and my mind is awake and I'm able to be clear with my awareness. Is that a state of being awake in the bhavanka? And Prajan said that is not being awake in the bhavanka. It's actually a state of being awake from the bhavanka, not in the bhavanka. When you're awake in the bhavanka, that is actually not an easy thing to do. But we can have the experience of being awake from the bhavanka, and that is what is more common to experience. Being awake from the bhavanka, it means that now you are not in that deep state of mind anymore, but you come back to this normal state, but with an energized mind, so your awareness of whatever happens in the present moment is more clear and more vibrant. But when we talk about being awake in the bhavanka, it's actually a deeper state of samadhi, and it's very similar to when you're able to be awake when you are asleep. And when you're awake in the bhavanka, that is the quality of mind where then you will be able to kind of manipulate or choose the place where you're going to be reborn. That is a very similar state of mind when you're able to be awake in the bhavanka. And this can sometimes be experienced when you go to sleep at night and you're kind of able to be awake while you are asleep. So it's like being awake when you dream or lucid dreaming. That is one quality very close, or the one quality of being awake in the bhavanka. Or if it's a more deeper state of being awake in the Bhavanka, sometimes you can almost feel like you are able to see yourself sleeping at night, seeing yourself turning left or right, and that is the quality of being awake in the Bhavanka with an even more energized state of mind. So when you talk about Bhavanka, going into Bhavanka is one thing. Being awake in the Bhavanka is more energized, different quality of the mind. So it's different from being awake from the Bhavanka where you are back in your normal awareness state of mind.
ขอบคุณครับน้องคำถามสุดท้ายครับผมจากท่านรัศรเดชครับ
So this is the next question is concerning when we talk about the defilements or kilesha, that when you get into a state of arahatship or realized being, that the kilesha is totally vanished or disappear. The question is which kilesha is disappears first or being destroyed first, and which one is last, or all the three kileshas are destroyed altogether all at once. So this is the question. So Prajan's answer is when you get into the state of Arya or realized being, usually they don't talk about the three kileshas like this, but they talk about the 10 fetters or the 10 sangyod in the 10 fetters, the 10 minor kileshas, more refined kileshas. This is the quality of how they define the state of being an Arya. But for this question, Bhajan said he feels like you're asking about Lobha, Tosa and Moha, greed, anger and delusion. Which one is destroyed first? So Prajan talked about that actually when we think about it, anger is usually something that is more clear to see. And greed is sometimes more subtle, and delusion is actually the most subtle. But when they talk about being able to overcome or being able to really see its state as it is, usually they talk about you would be able to see greed first and destroy greed first, and then anger, and then eventually leading to delusion. This is because actually anger is more easy to see or experience, but it has this stronger hold on us where it's difficult to be fully aware or naturally aware of anger, but it's easier to be naturally or clearly aware of greed. So usually when they talk about seeing and being able to let go of the three types of kileshas or defilements, they will talk about moving from the more coarse level to the more subtle level. So the sequence is usually talk about in terms of being able to let go of greed, and then being able to let go of anger, and eventually able to let go of delusion in that step. But another style of how to answer this is actually Prajan gave an example of when Luang Pu Dun, one of Luang Pu Man's main disciple, once he was asked by the king of Thailand that among all of these different types of kileshas, which type of kilesha should we abandon first and which should we abandon later? Luang Pu Dun's answer is actually, his answer was, whichever type of kilesha appears first, let go of that kilesha first. So it depends on whichever type of kilesha is appearing at that moment, at that particular present moment. Work with that type of kilesha first. So this is another style of how you can see which type of kilesha is actually going to disappear first. The second question is concerning an experience of one of our monk, that during his practice within his samadhi, he was able to have concentration and able to be aware of what is happening. And actually, he saw this state of a black hole like sucking him in. So his question is, what is it? So Prajant's answer is, when you experience this type of black hole in your meditation and you feel like it's sucking you in, his advice is jump in. Just explore it. Jump into that black hole and see what happens. Because this is actually just a state of mind, or he would call it agan or kiriya. Agan, it means the condition of the mind or the action of the mind. And you can divide this into internal action or external action. And this type of experience that you have you wrote and talked about is actually a state of an internal action of the mind. But we should not mix this internal action of the mind with a state of bhavanka. This is not a state of bhavanka or trance, but it's actually a state of internal experience of the mind. When you get in touch with the state of bhavanka, it would be a feeling quality, but not a seeing quality. But what you are experiencing and describing at the moment is a state of you are witnessing something or you seeing something. So this is not a type of feeling. So it's not a state of bhavanka. But because when you get in touch with the state of bhavanka, it's not that you see something, but actually you're experiencing something, you're feeling something. So don't worry about it. So whenever you get into this quality of seeing this state of a black hole or something sucking you in, don't be afraid, but just jump into that state and see what happens. But when you jump into that difficult state, don't forget that you have this tool or this weapon that Luang Por gave us, and that is to ask yourself, who is the consciousness? Who is experiencing this state, or who is seeing this state? And when you ask who is the knower like this, it helps to release you from getting indulged in that state of mind or that quality of mind. And this is a tool that would bring you out of being hooked on or being overwhelmed by this state of mind. So whenever you see this kind of negative or dark state, remember that you have this tool that can help you get out of it, which is to remind yourself to ask the question, who is the knower? Who is experiencing this quality? Or what is the consciousness? But Ajahn Pairot emphasized that, but if you are experiencing a state of clarity, a state of light, a state of collectedness of the mind, you don't need to ask this question, but rather you should engage with that quality and be with that quality for a longer period of time to accumulate the energy of the mind. When you ask this question, it's so that you will help the mind to release itself from indulging itself in that quality. So when you get into this positive quality, you indulge in it. You get in touch and stay with that quality. Don't force yourself to get out of that quality.